Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. His 4 eyes moved across the glowing screens that showed him everything about this new world called Earth. For 3 days, his ships had been watching the humans, studying their weapons and their technology. "Sir," said Officer Crix, walking up to the commander with a data pad in his clawed hands. "We have finished looking at their military systems. The results are strange." Thane turned his large head toward his officer. His scaled skin reflected the blue light from the screens around them. "Strange how?" Crix tapped the data pad and pictures appeared in the air above it. The images showed human warships, fighters and weapons. "They are using metal bullets, Commander. Not energy beams. Not plasma weapons. Just small pieces of metal that they shoot very fast." The commander's eyes widened. In all his years of conquest across the galaxy, he had never seen anything so primitive. "Metal bullets? Are you certain the translation is correct?" "Yes, sir. And their spaceships use chemical fuel to fly. Like burning wood for fire, but in space." Crix shook his head in disbelief. "Their communication systems use old radio waves. Their computers are slow and simple. Some of their weapons still need humans to aim them by hand." Captain James Mitchell sat in the command chair of the human warship Defiant, looking out at the alien vessels through the thick glass window. The enemy ships were beautiful in a deadly way. They looked like giant crystals floating in space, glowing with soft purple light. Each ship was 3 times bigger than his own vessel. "Captain," said Lieutenant Lisa Parker from her communication station, "the aliens are sending us another message. They want to talk." Mitchell nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly an alien face appeared. The creature had smooth, gray-green skin and 4 dark eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal, "I am Commander Thane of the Zephyrian Empire. We have studied your world and your military forces. You are clearly a young species with limited technology." Mitchell kept his face calm, but inside he was thinking fast. These aliens seemed very sure of themselves. "Too sure." "We offer you terms of surrender," Commander Thane continued. "Submit to the Empire and your people will be treated fairly. Refuse and we will be forced to take your world by strength. You have 24 hours to decide." The screen went black. The bridge of the Defiant was quiet for a moment. "Well," said Major Robert Hayes, the leader of their fighter squadron, "they seem friendly." Back on the alien flagship, Commander Thane was already writing his report to the Empire's leaders. His long fingers moved quickly across a glowing keyboard that appeared in the air. "Species, human," he wrote. "Technology level, primitive. Military threat, minimal. Recommendation, send basic conquest force. Expected time to victory, 6 hours." Officer Crix read over his commander's shoulder. "Sir, should we not be more careful? Sometimes primitive species can surprise us." Thane made a sound like laughing but harsher. "Look at their weapons, Crix. They shoot metal pellets. Our energy shields will stop those easily. Their ships move slowly. Their communication is so simple we can jam it without effort." He pointed at the images of human military bases. "See how they build everything? Heavy, thick, using lots of metal and concrete. This is what species do when they cannot make proper force fields and energy barriers." "But sir, what if?" "There are no what-ifs here," Thane interrupted. "I have conquered 47 worlds for the Empire. I know primitive technology when I see it. These humans still use explosions to make their bullets fly. They still burn chemical fuel to power their ships. Some of their soldiers carry weapons made of metal and wood." Crix looked at the data again. It was true that human technology seemed very old compared to theirs. The Zephyrians used pure energy for everything. Their ships flew by bending space itself. Their weapons could destroy targets from across a solar system. Their shields could stop any energy weapon ever built. "I understand, Commander," Crix said finally. "How many ships should we request for the conquest?" 50 should be more than enough," Thane replied, not looking up from his report. "Perhaps too many. But the Empire likes to be thorough." On Earth, Captain Mitchell was meeting with other military leaders in a deep underground bunker. The room was filled with screens showing the alien ships and data about their technology. "They have us outgunned," said General Patricia Johnson, pointing at the technical readings. "Their energy output is massive. Their ships can probably destroy our orbital platforms in minutes." "Maybe," Mitchell said quietly. "But there's something odd about their message. They seemed dismissive. Like they think this will be easy." Major Hayes leaned back in his chair. Maybe that's good for us. Overconfident enemies make mistakes. Or maybe they have good reason to be confident, said Dr. William Sterling, the team's science advisor. Their technology is clearly far ahead of ours. Mitchell stared at the pictures of the alien ships on the screen. Something bothered him about the whole situation, but he could not put his finger on what it was. There's one thing I keep thinking about, he said finally. Why give us 24 hours? If they can destroy us easily, why not just attack? The room was quiet as everyone thought about this question. Maybe, Hayes said slowly, they're not as sure as they want us to think. Meanwhile, Commander Thane sent his report across the galaxy to the Zephyrian High Command. Within hours he received a response. Conquest Force approved. 50 vessels assigned. Proceed when ready. Thane smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Another primitive world would soon join the Empire. Another easy victory for his record. He had no idea that his primitive enemies had been preparing for this moment for longer than his entire species had been building starships. The countdown to war had begun. 3 weeks later, the space around Earth filled with alien ships. Commander Thane watched from his flagship as 50 Zephyrian vessels took their positions. Each ship glowed with purple energy, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight like giant jewels. The fleet looked magnificent and terrifying. All ships report ready, Commander, said Officer Crix, his clawed fingers dancing over the control panel. Weapons are charged. Shields are at full power. The AI battle computers have calculated the optimal attack patterns. Thane nodded, feeling satisfied. His ships were arranged in perfect formation, each one exactly where the computers said it should be. Every weapon was aimed precisely. Every movement was planned down to the smallest detail. This was how civilized species fought wars, with mathematics, logic, and overwhelming technology. Begin the attack, Thane ordered. The first wave of Zephyrian fighters shot forward like glowing arrows. There were 100 of them, each one controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. They moved together in perfect lines, their flight paths calculated to give maximum firepower while avoiding friendly fire. It was beautiful to watch. On the human side, Major Robert Hayes sat in the cockpit of his F-47 Raptor fighter. The ship was old, built 40 years ago and upgraded many times since then. The metal was scratched and dented. The controls were mostly manual switches and dials. Compared to the sleek alien fighters, it looked like junk. All right, people, Hayes said into his radio, speaking to the 20 pilots in his squadron. Remember what we practiced. Stay random. Don't fly in straight lines. Don't give their computers anything to predict. Copy that, Major, came the replies from his pilots. Hayes pushed his throttle forward and felt the chemical rockets kick in behind him. The acceleration pressed him back into his seat. Through his cockpit window, he could see the alien fighters approaching fast, their energy weapons already starting to glow. Lieutenant Sarah Collins flew beside Hayes in her own beat-up fighter. She had been flying these old ships for 10 years and knew every bolt and wire in them. Here they come, she said calmly. The alien fighters opened fire first. Brilliant beams of plasma energy shot across space, bright as lightning. The beams went exactly where the alien computers predicted the human fighters would be. But the humans were not there. Hayes threw his fighter into a wild spiral, twisting and turning in ways that made no sense to a computer. His human brain, trained by years of practice, guided the ship through moves that no mathematical formula could predict. The plasma beams missed him by meters. Collins rolled her fighter upside down and dove toward the alien formation. Her movement was so sudden and strange that the alien targeting systems could not keep up. She lined up her gun sight on an enemy fighter and pressed the trigger. Her 30mm cannon roared to life. The weapon was simple, just a fast-spinning barrel that shot tungsten bullets at incredible speed. Each bullet was a solid chunk of metal, nothing fancy or high-tech about it. The bullets hit the alien fighter's energy shield. The shield had been designed to stop energy weapons and guided missiles. It could deflect plasma beams and particle rays without any trouble. But it had never been tested against simple metal bullets moving at high speed. The tungsten rounds punched straight through the shield as if it was not there. They smashed into the crystalline hull of the alien fighter, cracking it open like an egg. The ship spun out of control, leaking air and energy into space. What? Commander Thane stared at his tactical display in shock. The screen showed one of his fighters destroyed, its signal gone dark. How is that possible? Sir, Crick said, his voice confused, the human weapons, they are not energy-based. They are firing solid projectiles. Our shields are not designed to stop physical objects. Physical objects? Thane could not believe what he was hearing. They are throwing rocks at us? Not rocks, sir. Metal bullets. Very fast metal bullets. Another alarm sounded. Then another. More Zephyrian fighters were being destroyed by the primitive human weapons. The alien pilots, used to fighting computer-controlled battles, could not understand why their targeting systems kept missing. Hayes pulled his fighter through another impossible turn and fired again. His bullets found their mark, and another alien ship exploded in a shower of crystal fragments. Around him, his squadron was doing the same thing. The humans flew like they were dancing, each pilot moving in his own unique way. "This is impossible," muttered Zephyrian fighter pilot Vex as he tried to lock onto a human target. His computer kept calculating where the enemy would be, but the enemy never went there. The human pilot seemed to change direction for no reason, spinning and diving like a crazy person. Vex fired his plasma cannon, but the beam missed by a wide margin. Before he could line up another shot, tungsten bullets smashed through his cockpit window. His last thought was confusion about how such primitive weapons could be so effective. Back on Earth, Captain Mitchell watched the battle on his command screens. The reports coming in were almost too good to believe. "Sir," said Lieutenant Parker, "our fighters have destroyed 15 alien ships. We have lost only 2 of our own." 15? Mitchell could hardly believe it. "How?" Major Hayes's voice came through the radio, slightly out of breath from the high-speed maneuvering. "Their ships are too smart for their own good, Captain. They move in patterns. They think logically. But we do not fight logically. We fight like humans." Commander Thane gripped his command chair as more reports of losses came in. His perfect formation was falling apart. His superior technology was not working as planned. The humans were not fighting the way civilized species were supposed to fight. "Sir," Crick said nervously, "should we retreat and regroup?" "No," Thane growled. "Send in the second wave. And the third. We have more ships. We will overwhelm them with numbers." But deep in his mind, doubt was beginning to grow. These humans were not acting like any enemy he had ever faced. They were supposed to be primitive and easy to defeat. So why were they winning? The battle had been going on for 6 hours now, and Commander Thane was starting to feel something he had never felt before in all his years of conquest: fear. His tactical display showed 28 of his fighters destroyed, while the humans had lost only 7. This was not supposed to happen. "Send in all remaining fighters," Thane ordered, his voice tight with anger. "And bring the capital ships closer. We will use our main guns to destroy their orbital stations." Officer Crix hesitated. "Sir, moving the capital ships closer will put them in range of the human weapons." "Their weapons are primitive bullets," Thane snapped. "Our main ships have armor thick enough to stop anything they can throw at us." Captain Mitchell stood in the command center of Titan Station, one of Earth's main defense platforms orbiting Saturn. The station was huge but old, built from thick steel and concrete rather than the lightweight materials more advanced civilizations might use. Through the observation windows he could see the alien capital ships moving closer. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander David Thompson, looking up from his console, "the alien big ships are coming into range. They are much larger than our fighters can handle." Mitchell nodded grimly. "Time to see if Colonel Martinez's special project works." On a hidden asteroid base between Mars and Jupiter, Colonel Elena Martinez watched her screens carefully. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and she had spent the last 10 years working on a project that most people thought was crazy. "All units, this is Martinez," she spoke into her radio. "Target is approaching. Prepare to activate Project Blackout." Her team worked quickly around a massive device that looked like it was built from spare parts. Thick cables ran everywhere. Old-fashioned vacuum tubes glowed orange in the dim light. The whole thing looked like something from a museum, not a modern weapons system. "Colonel," said her assistant, "are you sure this will work? It looks so basic." Martinez smiled. "Basic is good. Basic does not break when you need it most." The alien capital ships moved into position around Earth, their massive hulls glowing with energy. Each ship was 5 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Commander Thane felt his confidence returning as he watched his mighty fleet take their battle positions. "Target the human orbital platforms," he commanded. "Destroy them all." The Zephyrian ships charged their main weapons. Energy built up in their crystal cores, creating light so bright it could be seen from Earth's surface. The humans were about to learn what real power looked like. But just as the alien ships were about to fire, something strange happened. Space around Earth suddenly filled with invisible energy, not the kind that could be seen but the kind that interfered with electronics. What is happening? Thane demanded as his ship's lights began to flicker. Sir, we are detecting a massive electromagnetic pulse, Crix reported, his voice rising with panic. It is coming from multiple sources around the solar system. Colonel Martinez watched her ancient-looking device pump out invisible waves of electromagnetic energy. All around the solar system, similar devices were doing the same thing. The humans had placed them on asteroids, on moons, on hidden space stations. Each device was simple, reliable, and very powerful. Fire, Martinez said quietly. The electromagnetic pulse hit the Zephyrian fleet like a hammer. The alien ships, with their advanced computers and sophisticated electronics, were completely unprepared for such a crude attack. Their quantum processors crashed. Their AI systems went offline. Their weapon controls stopped working. Commander Thane watched in horror as his flagship went dark around him. Emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows across the bridge. His beautiful tactical displays went blank. His communication systems died. Emergency power, he shouted. Get me emergency power. Sir, Crix said, his voice shaking, the pulse has damaged our primary systems. Our quantum cores are offline. Our AI networks are not responding. Across the Zephyrian fleet, the same thing was happening. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation now drifted helplessly in space. Weapons that could destroy planets were useless without their targeting computers. The most advanced military force in the galaxy had been crippled by what was essentially a very large magnet. On Titan Station, Captain Mitchell watched the alien ships floating dead in space. Well, he said calmly, that worked better than expected. Major Hayes was already launching his fighters for another attack run. The human ships, with their simple mechanical controls and basic electronics, had been barely affected by the electromagnetic pulse. Their radios had some static, but everything else worked fine. This is Hayes to all squadrons, he transmitted. The big fish are sitting ducks. Let us go fishing. The human fighters swarmed toward the disabled alien capital ships. The massive vessels tried to defend themselves, but without their computers, they could not coordinate their weapons or track the fast-moving human ships. Lieutenant Collins lined up her fighter with one of the alien ships and fired her cannon. The tungsten bullets, each one as big as a person's fist, smashed into the crystalline hull. The alien ship's armor was strong, but it had not been designed to stop this kind of direct, brutal attack. Sir, Thompson reported to Captain Mitchell, we are detecting internal explosions on 3 of the alien capital ships. Their armor is holding, but barely. Mitchell nodded. Order all stations to target their engines and weapons. Do not try to destroy them completely, we want some of them alive for questioning. Commander Thane felt his ship shake as human weapons pounded against the hull. He had never experienced anything like this. In all his battles across the galaxy, he had always fought enemies who used technology similar to his own. Energy weapons against energy shields. Computer-guided missiles against computer-controlled defenses. Advanced AI against advanced AI. But these humans fought differently. They used simple weapons that worked when everything else failed. They flew their ships manually when computers would be more accurate. They built crude devices that accomplished what sophisticated systems could not. Sir, Crix said quietly, perhaps we should consider retreat. Thane stared at the dead screens around him. For the first time in his military career, he was beginning to understand that advance did not always mean better. Sometimes, the most dangerous enemy was the one who had learned to fight without depending on anything that could break. 2 days after the electromagnetic pulse attack, human salvage teams were working inside a damaged Zephyrian scout ship that had crashed on Earth's moon. The ship's hull was cracked open like a broken egg, but much of the interior was still intact. Inside, they found something that would change everything. Dr. William Sterling floated through the alien ship's corridors, his space suit making soft beeping sounds as he moved. He was Earth's top expert on alien technology, and what he was seeing made him both excited and worried. This is incredible, he said into his radio as he looked at the ship's main computer. Even damaged, the alien technology was far beyond anything humans had built. The computer screens were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with its own light. The controls responded to thoughts, not touch. But it was what the computer contained that truly shocked him. Captain Mitchell, Sterling transmitted back to Earth, you need to see this. The alien database is still working. And it has files on dozens of other species. 3 hours later, Sterling was back on Earth, standing in a secure briefing room with military leaders from around the world. The room was deep underground, protected by thick concrete walls and electronic jammers. On the main screen, alien text scrolled past, translated into English by their best computers. What we found changes everything we thought we knew about this war, Sterling began, his voice serious. The Zephyrians are not just random invaders. They are professional conquerors. They have taken over 47 different worlds. General Patricia Johnson leaned forward in her chair. 47? How long have they been doing this? According to their records, about 300 years. And here is the important part, every single species they conquered used the same type of technology they do. Sterling pressed a button, and the screen showed images of different alien races. Some looked like insects, others like plants, still others like geometric shapes floating in space. But all their weapons and ships looked similar to the Zephyrian technology. Energy weapons, computer-controlled ships, artificial intelligence, quantum shields, every species they fought used advanced technology like theirs, Sterling continued. The Zephyrians built their entire military to fight enemies exactly like themselves. Captain Mitchell studied the images carefully. And we are not like them. Not even close, Sterling replied. Look at this tactical manual we found. The screen showed pages of alien military strategy. Every single battle plan assumes the enemy will act logically. Every strategy expects computer-controlled responses. They have no idea how to fight someone who does things manually, randomly, or in ways that make no sense to a computer. Meanwhile, in the medical bay of a human military hospital, Commander Thane was slowly recovering from his injuries. His ship had been badly damaged in the battle, and he had been captured when human forces boarded the wreck. Now he sat in a chair, his 4 eyes staring at the simple, primitive room around him. The walls were made of concrete and steel. The lights were basic electrical bulbs. The door was held shut by a simple mechanical lock. Everything was solid, heavy, and built to last. It reminded him of how the humans built their weapons and ships. Dr. Rebecca Harris, a human military psychologist, sat across from him. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but Thane had learned not to underestimate humans based on appearance. I do not understand, Thane said in his translated voice. Your weapons are so primitive. Your ships are so slow. How did you defeat us? Dr. Harris smiled gently. May I tell you a story, Commander? About human history? Thane nodded, curious despite himself. Thousands of years ago, Harris began, humans fought wars with sticks and stones. Then we learned to use metal. Then gunpowder. Then engines and radios and computers. But in all that time, we learned something very important. What did you learn? We learned that the best weapon is not the newest weapon or the most complex weapon. The best weapon is the one that works when everything else fails. Harris stood up and walked to the window. Through the thick glass, Thane could see human workers repairing damage from the battle. They used simple tools, hammers, wrenches, welding torches. But they worked quickly and efficiently. You see, Commander, humans have been fighting wars against other humans for our entire history. We learned that fancy technology breaks at the worst possible moments. Computers crash when you need them most. Complex systems fail when they are damaged. Thane listened carefully, beginning to understand. So we built our military around a simple idea, Harris continued. Every weapon must work without electricity. Every ship must fly without computers. Every soldier must fight without depending on anything that can be broken or jammed or turned off. But your technology is so basic, Thane protested. So crude. Is it? Harris asked. Your energy shields could not stop our bullets. Your computers could not predict our flight patterns. Your advanced systems all failed when we used an electromagnetic pulse. Which technology was really more advanced? Back in the briefing room, Dr. Sterling was showing more files from the alien database. The records showed battle after battle where the Zephyrians had easily defeated their enemies. Energy weapons against energy shields. Computer against computer. Advanced technology against advanced technology. Every species they fought made the same mistake, Sterling explained. They tried to out-tech the Zephyrians. They built better computers, stronger shields, faster ships. But they all used the same basic approach. And we do not, said Major Hayes, who had joined the meeting after returning from another patrol. Exactly. We use what military experts call appropriate technology. Not the most advanced technology, but the most reliable technology. Technology that works in any conditions, that can be repaired with simple tools, that does not depend on anything else to function. General Johnson looked at the alien records on the screen. So they have been fighting high-tech wars for 300 years and suddenly they run into us. Us, Sterling nodded. A species that perfected low-tech solutions to high-tech problems. A species that learned to make simple things devastatingly effective. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Captain Mitchell spoke. No wonder they seemed so confident at first. They had never lost a battle because they had never fought anyone like us. And now they know, Sterling said grimly, that there is something more dangerous than advanced technology, humans who refuse to depend on it. Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at what remained of his once mighty fleet. Of the 50 ships that had arrived at Earth 3 weeks ago, only 23 were still functional. The rest were either destroyed or floating dead in space, their advanced systems fried by the crude but effective human electromagnetic weapons. Sir, Officer Crick said quietly, approaching with a data pad in his clawed hands. The repair teams report that our quantum cores will need at least 6 months to rebuild. Our AI networks are completely corrupted. Most of our energy weapons are offline. Thane's 4 eyes closed in defeat. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore basic functions using emergency backup systems. The proud Zephyrian flagship now looked like a wounded animal, limping through space on primitive thruster engines. And the humans? Thane asked, though he already knew the answer. Their losses were minimal, sir. 7 fighters, 2 orbital platforms. They are already building replacements using simple manufacturing techniques that our weapons cannot effectively target. On Earth, Captain Mitchell sat in his office, writing his final report about the war. Through his window he could see workers rebuilding the damaged sections of the lunar base. They used basic construction equipment, cranes, welders, and bulldozers that had been built to work in space. Simple, reliable, effective. The enemy's withdrawal began at 0800 hours today, Mitchell typed on his old-fashioned keyboard. Analysis suggests they are retreating not due to lack of firepower, but due to tactical confusion and system failures caused by our EMP weapons. Major Hayes knocked on the door and entered. His flight suit was still dirty from his latest patrol mission, where he had escorted the retreating alien ships to make sure they actually left the solar system. They are really going, Hayes reported. The last of their ships just jumped to hyperspace. But Captain, I think we need to talk about what happens next. Mitchell looked up from his report. What do you mean? Word is going to spread about this battle. Other alien species are going to hear that the mighty Zephyrian Empire was beaten by a primitive world using metal bullets and electromagnetic pulses. Some of them might get curious. Some of them might want to test us themselves. Mitchell nodded grimly. Hayes was right. This victory might bring them more trouble, not less. Meanwhile, aboard the retreating Zephyrian flagship, Commander Thane was preparing the most difficult message of his military career. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at a blank communication screen, trying to find words to explain what had happened. Finally he began to type. To Zephyrian High Command. From Commander Thane, 47th Conquest Fleet. Subject: Emergency reclassification of human species. He paused, his clawed fingers hovering over the controls. The conquest of Earth has failed. I am requesting immediate reclassification of species designation human from Category 7 Primitive to Category 1 Apex Predator. All Zephyrian vessels should maintain minimum safe distance of 50 light-years from the Sol system. Thane stopped typing and stared at the words. Category 1 Apex Predator was a classification reserved for the most dangerous species in the galaxy, being so lethal that even the Zephyrian Empire avoided them completely. He had never expected to use that designation for a species that still used chemical rockets and metal bullets. But he had learned something important during this failed invasion. Advanced technology was not always better technology. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon was the one that worked when everything else failed. He continued typing. Human military doctrine appears to be based on reliability rather than sophistication. Their weapons are simple but effective. Their tactics are unpredictable because they rely on individual judgment rather than computer algorithms. Most importantly, their technology functions independently of complex support systems. Dr. William Sterling was giving a presentation to the United Nations Security Council, explaining what they had learned from the captured alien database. The meeting was taking place in the same underground bunker where they had planned Earth's defense. The Zephyrian Empire controls over 200 star systems, Sterling explained to the assembled world leaders. They have conquered dozens of intelligent species. But all of those species made the same mistake. They tried to fight advanced technology with more advanced technology. The Secretary General, an elderly woman from Brazil, raised her hand. Dr. Sterling, what makes humans different? We learn to fight dirty, Sterling replied simply. Every other species the Zephyrians conquered was logical, predictable, and dependent on their technology. We are none of those things. He clicked to the next slide, which showed images of human military equipment beside alien technology. Look at the difference. Their ships are beautiful, efficient, and completely helpless when their computers fail. Our ships are ugly, simple, and work even when they are half destroyed. Their weapons are precise and powerful but useless against targets they were not designed to fight. Our weapons are crude but effective against anything. Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Commander Thane was finishing his report. Recommendation: establish permanent no-contact zone around Sol system. Humans have demonstrated the ability to turn any technology into a weapon and to fight effectively without depending on advanced systems. They represent a fundamental threat to our military doctrine. He hesitated, then added one final paragraph. Personal note: in 40 years of military service, I have never encountered an enemy like this. Humans do not fight the way civilized species fight. They fight the way their ancestors fought, with cunning, adaptability, and weapons they can trust absolutely. They have perfected the art of simple warfare to a degree we never imagined possible. The message was transmitted across the galaxy through hyperspace communication networks. Within days, every major alien civilization knew what had happened at Earth. The small blue world in an unremarkable star system was suddenly marked on star charts everywhere with a simple but frightening designation: humans, do not engage. Captain Mitchell received the final casualty reports as the sun set over the Pacific Ocean. Earth had lost 63 soldiers, 12 ships, and 2 orbital platforms. In return, they had defeated one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces and earned a reputation that would protect them for generations to come. He looked out at the ocean, where fishing boats were returning to harbor just as they had for thousands of years. Simple boats using simple technology, reliable and effective. It occurred to him that those fishermen and the space pilots who had just won humanity's first interstellar war had more in common than most people would think. Both understood that the best tools were the ones you could count on when everything else went wrong.